Our next presenter is Annalena. Annalena is described as creative, organized, dramatic, hardworking, dedicated, and driven. She was up at 5:30 this morning, and most mornings practicing. She's also very comfortable on stage, and you'll see she's very composed. The violin extraordinaire, Annalena DeRocher.
Hello, my name is Annalena DeRocher, and for my 8th grade project, I decided to compose a violin piece. I chose this project because I knew I wanted to do something with music because I've played violin for 8 years, and I've tried composing in the past, but I never had enough time or patience to do so. So I took this opportunity to go deeper into my understanding of music. I talked to my grandma about my project and how I didn't have a mentor, and she recommended her high school friend, Steven Rydberg. He's an artist, composer, and musician, so I thought he'd be perfect for my mentor. I asked him, and he agreed. The first step of my process was creating what I call the skeleton. It's the feeling of the piece and the key. The feeling I wanted for my piece was to start in a darker place. Then it gets happier and better, but it doesn't stay happy forever. I wanted parallel keys for my piece, but I didn't know what key I wanted it in. Parallel keys they have the same note name, but it's just G minor or G major, for instance. Inspiration was my next step. One day I was humming to myself, and I came up with a phrase that I really liked, so I ran upstairs to record it. I put the rhythm and the notes into my composition notebook, and then I figured out what key it was in. It was in G minor. So I wanted G minor and G major for my keys. Between humming and playing my violin, I came up with about 5 phrases that I really liked. But when I tried to play them together, they didn't really seem to fit. It was also really hard to let any of them go. I thought I could solve this problem by creating a bridge between the minor and major phrases. I was very diligent at first, spending several hours trying to create this bridge. But after several attempts with no real result, I began to procrastinate. I felt like I was wasting time, and I was getting anxious. I asked my mom what I should do, and she suggested I talk to my mentor, and to Miss Carey. I talked to Steven, and he had the perfect advice. He said to compose for yourself, and not to think about what others might think about your piece. That gave me a lot of strength, so I talked to Miss Carey as well. Being a musician herself, she was able to play one of my phrases on the piano, and then she improvised, playing whatever she felt complimented my phrases. Overcoming my fear and bringing my problem to Steven and to Miss Carey was extremely helpful. And through this process, I realized that G minor and G major are too similar and wouldn't give me the contrast and feeling that I wanted. So I went back to the drawing board, and after weeks of improvising, I came up with E major as a better contrast to G minor. Eventually, the whole piece was written. I had to now send the piece to my mentor, Steven, so he could put it into his program. I had to rewrite some things to make it look neater. So the top picture I sent to Steven, which is my writing, and then he would send me back the notes into the program. Steven also taught me how to professionally notate my notes. As you can see in my writing, the circular part of the note is more of a line, which makes the writing more efficient and it makes the page neater. Eventually, my whole piece was in the program. A few issues of miscalculations of my rhythms occurred, but I corrected those. Then I was done. Well, completely honest, I was making corrections until last Monday. But I still didn't have a title. Luckily, I had a private violin lesson, and I was talking to my teacher about how my project was going. She asked if I had a title. I said no. So she asked for a few adjectives describing my piece. And then she told me to translate them into Italian because the majority of notations in music are in Italian, such as forte or andante. One of the adjectives I gave her was mysterious. So that's when I named my piece Mysterioso. I would now like to play it for you. I learned a lot during this project. I learned that the first way of doing things might not always be the best way of doing it, and that I can't do everything by myself. I'd like to thank my mentor, Steven Rydberg, for always being available and giving the best advice. I'd like to thank our family friend, Maureen Smiley, for gifting me this amazing violin. I'd like to thank my teacher, Pamela Simmons, for her love and support. I'd like to thank my mom for the endless pep talks and keeping me on track. I'd like to thank my grandma for listening to me talk about my project and recommending my amazing mentor. I'd like to thank another family friend, Mark Heffernan, for being my biggest fan. And I'd like to thank Miss Carey for inspiring me. I'd also like to thank my class for being a second family. questions? Yeah.
Was it hard to memorize?
I did not have it memorized. I have the music right here. You?
When did you start?
When did I start? I started mid-July. Lucy?
What was the hardest part of this project?
What was the hardest part? To be completely honest, the whole thing. But I'd probably say when I got stuck with the bridge, that was really hard for me because it took many, many weeks to figure out what the problem was and to pick myself up to take my music to someone to help. Yeah.
Have you previously done composing, and will you continue?
Have I previously done composing, or will I continue? I have not previously done it. I've tried just for fun because I didn't have anything else to do. Yes, so I will definitely try to keep doing this. It's really fun and it's really rewarding. So, yeah.
So does composing the piece of music yourself change your performance?
Does composing the music that I perform change the actual performance? Yeah, I think it does. I think it makes me a little bit more aware of what I'm actually doing, and if I mess up, then people might think that the piece sounds different than it actually is. So yeah, but it's a lot more positive, I think, and I enjoy the piece more sometimes. Mark?
The parallel thing that you were mentioning about the key that it's in and why that didn't work, can you say what that means? Because I don't get it.
Yeah, so the parallel keys, G minor and G major. So G major and G minor, there's only a difference of like a few notes, so that make G minor and G major. And so if I don't hit those notes in my other passage, then it might not sound happier, which I wanted it to. So, and I ended up not hitting those notes, so it just sounded like it was the same key, same feeling for the whole piece. And I wanted it to have like a different mood change. Yeah. Really? Like composing more? Yes, I am planning on composing more. Yeah.
Is there more to Mysterioso? Do we have ideas for where it goes a little bit?
Yeah, so do I have more ideas for the piece and stuff with it? I was planning, I'm still planning, to create a piano accompaniment to this. Yeah. But I think that's kind of the only idea I have for it right now. Yeah. Honey?
Are you going to play that at the spring concert?
Am I going to play it at the spring concert? I could. Yeah, could. Yeah.
It sounded like you really loved some little pieces at the beginning of the project. I'm wondering if there was some other point in the project that you also fell in love with what you were doing, maybe after the bridge got solved. I'm just wondering about where the I love this feeling came into the story for you.
Yeah, so like where were the places of love that I felt for it? I think the whole process was a lot more emotional than I thought it would be. So I think just creating the bridge, and then like I couldn't actually create it and then figuring a solution. It was just really rewarding, and it just like once I figured out that I had this whole piece, it felt like it was all worth it in the end, and that like there's this sort of meaning to doing what you want to do. And so yeah, I'd say it's like a long-term reward, and that it keeps on rewarding you the more you create it. Yeah, and you go?
You're obviously a very full, emotional person, but you have to play what you wrote. How hard is that to separate, I'd rather melt right now from I want to play this right?
I think it's just showing, for me, a part of it is showing people what I can do and what I've done. And just kind of sticking with it till the end is a really important part for me, because I've heard so many people say, like, oh, in this family, we don't quit, or something like that. And so I've always thought it was kind of interesting, a way of putting that, but I do kind of resonate with it in a way that I feel like you just have to stick with it. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you think that now, or has this been your experience on your composer, or do you think it will be as you continue to play music of other composers? Do you want to understand that individual more? Do you want to understand what was going on in their life around the time they composed this piece, what their thoughts were, and what they were trying to communicate through?
Yeah. So the question was kind of like, with me composing, does it want me to understand what other composers were going through? Kind of? Yeah. And what their intentions were with their music. Yeah, I think that would be definitely very interesting. I'm just in nature very interested with biographies, so that would definitely be something that I would probably do research into, because I never really thought about how like attached you get to what you create. So I feel like it would be just a different standpoint, seeing what other people thought of what they created. Yeah.
Excellent piece. It was very moving, and it was so beautiful. It gave me goosebumps. My question is, where do you find your creativity? It takes a lot of creative energy to compose. I've tried, and I know how difficult it is. So, where do you find your creativity, and maybe who inspired you?
Yeah, who inspired me, and what? Where is my creativity? Where do I find my creativity? In the beginning of this process, actually, I was like giving myself about 30 minutes roughly every day to work on it. And I realized that after 30 minutes, I finally got into the groove of wanting to compose. So once that 30 minutes was over, I really did not do anything. So that's why it kind of took a bit longer than it could have, probably. So yeah, I think one of the things that I've definitely learned with this is that you have to really give yourself the time to give your creative senses some time to unfold and give you what you want to create. So yeah, I think you just have to have unlimited time, which is very hard. So yeah.